The Shape of Us is a platform that opens up discussion around the current shape of, well, us, society at large, looking into all kinds of different areas that have an effect on the big picture. Things such as technology, media, politics, history, and so much more. Don't be afraid to join in our discussion. Leave comments and questions below, many of which we hope to be able to answer each episode. We try to keep bias opinions to a minimum, but for any hot takes, opinions, or subjective viewpoints, we have a disclaimer that will play that goes something like, "This is a disclaimer warning. The views shared by are reflective of, and not of anyone else in this recording. Other than this, enjoy the Shape of Us podcast." Right, so with this particular entry, I just wanted to work as a soft introduction, if you will. There are other videos and other entries into this series of videos that we're working on that will more accurately capture the picture of what this podcast is. It won't always just be me. That's not the intention. The intention is to have a balanced discussion going all the way through the podcast and making sure that everybody's voice is heard. I just wanted to start with a simple breakdown of why I got involved in this project, why I strongly believe that it's necessary for these type of discussions to be had, especially particularly in our modern era. So The Shape of Us, this particular introduction that I'm putting forward here, is a study of how the Scots invented the modern world. So here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The revolution is yet to be televised. Today I'd like to speak briefly using the 3 pillars of transformation as my framework. I think that there are 3 pillars of transformation that vaguely encapsulate the ideas and notions I think have brought our world into the form that it is. Now, many people don't actually know how much the Scottish have contributed to the existence of our understanding of the modern world. So these 3 pillars are spirituality, education, and innovation. Spirituality. This transformation was driven when Scotland fully embraced scripture. Through that ideal, though dogmatism and ignorance were widespread during those early years, this period marked a cultural shift in Scotland's development into modernity. The belief that every individual should have access to scripture, either by reading it themselves or through someone who could, fueled a broader cultural movement towards a personal responsibility, critical reflection, and spiritual connection. This spiritual awakening laid the groundwork for intellectual and social, or should I say societal, progression. Education. Literacy opened up entirely new horizons for the Scottish populace. Through parish schools and universities, Scots became one of the first modern literate societies. Reading and writing became embedded across the population, enabling the spread of knowledge previously available only to elite circles. This created a marketplace for ideas and literature that led to democratic ideals and intellectual innovation. As Herman writes, Scotland became Europe's first modern literate society. And that foundational literacy paved the way for modern democracy and economic understanding. And now innovation, breaking the mold and challenging traditional modes of thinking. Scotland produced thinkers and creators who reshaped the modern world. The Scottish Enlightenment was not just intellectual, it was transformative. Figures like Adam Smith, David Hume, Francis Hutchinson refined, or should I say redefined, economics, philosophy, and liberal thought worldwide. Herman argues their Scottish approach was more robust and original than even the French Enlightenment. This mindset accelerated global progress. James Watts' steam engine gave capitalism its modern face, a technology that revolutionized trade, industry, and economic organization. From pioneering scientific discoveries to the spread of literature, education, and democratic ideals, Scots shaped the worldview that defines modern society. In conclusion, innovation in Scotland was not merely the creation of tools, it was the daring to imagine what was possible. This innovation, built on soaring literacy and spiritual purpose, produced contributions that continue to define the modern world. From the steam engine and the theories of free market to democratic governance and moral thought. Herman observed, if you want a monument to the Scots, look around you, because their influence is embedded in modern institutions, technologies, and values. The Scots invented not only modern inventions, but a way of thinking that defines modernity. Reason intertwined with creativity, individual responsibility paired with a communal progress. Their mindset reshaped civilization. Scholar Gregory McNamee summed it up: the Scots have by and large made the world a better place rather than a worse place. So looking at that as a sort of framework for how to approach the discussion, I propose that the book How the Scots Invented the Modern World as a essential form of reading for this series of videos and discussions and talks that I want to propose. Now, as you could probably tell, that previous section was a little bit more scripted. But overall, a lot of the discussions I hope to bring to the table, not even just for the sake of argument, but rather for an open discourse. We can have that element of ideas going back and forth, the free trade of ideas, if you will, but framing it around that particular book, only because that book poses a lot of sections of our modern world broken down through the lens of the Scottish Enlightenment and all of the figures responsible for bringing that around. I genuinely think that it's worth framing this part of this series with that book, mainly because that's where the idea stemmed from, but also because I just find that book to be so fascinating and enlightening. So let's just go right ahead and start. Now, as for general talking points, as we kind of go through this series, the things I just wanted to highlight was the framework of the breakdown that we proposed. I say we because the idea is that there will be more people involved in these discussions going forward. As you'll see, there's some clips coming up from discussions that I've had with a very good friend of mine. The way it works at this present moment is I've given you an introduction to the shape of us, how it works, the book of the Scottish Enlightenment, the disclaimers, how we got the title, and then from there, what it's going to then go into is the proper study of man, the New Jerusalem, a man's man under that, that, which is a quote from the book itself, quote that I quite like. You know, a man's man, and that. I think it's a very interesting and reflective quote as to how the idea of a man taking responsibility for his life just comes into play. But yeah, so I just wanted to give that soft introduction and allow you guys to get a kind of understanding, all while seeing the logo and all of these other such things unfold before your eyes. So there you have it. That's the introduction to The Shape of Us. Please like, subscribe, and look forward to some new videos. Look forward to some discussions, and we'll hope to hear from you. You know, the world is changing in ways that we can't even begin to fathom. You know, technologies rapidly approaching the realm of the conscious. It's no longer this inanimate object that can simply just be ignored. There are companies and institutions driving for the progression of technology to the point where the human doesn't even have to think. And what implications does that have for the shape of us? What ideas can come from that? What discussions can we have based on those things as well? I personally have my own take on how we should see these things, but I'd also like to know how you think we should view these things, and where you stand on a lot of the technology and a lot of the discourse around censorship and freedom of speech and the human rights that many of our ancestors have fought so tirelessly for us to have, you know, simply for the government and the institutions that we have placed in charge of our lives to say, well, they don't matter anymore because we control things. So let's see how that discussion unfolds as well. Following up, I want to just include some clips into this video of myself and my business partner, TSOU, the creative bishop, how he views these things. And there's a little bit of back and forth there. There's a lot of mention towards scripture and ideas and ideals and all of these things that come into play as a result of that. I have myself have some viewpoints and talking points that I'd like to go over after all that is said and done. So let's leave it there for now, and we'll reconvene once that is done. Thank you.